Good morning, everyone. It's a lovely Tuesday morning. Myself and my colleague Clara are excited for this webinar. It's 9 o'clock. We're going to start in a minute or so. Just leave some time for people to drop in. For those of you who are already here, warmly welcome. We have some chat and questions tabs in the bottom right corner. We're going to go through that. But for those of you who have found the chat, please or add in the chat where you're from now during this minute. And we can see who's listening in from where. So we give it another second or so before we get started. So I will leave some time for Clara to be back. Welcome, Clara. And then let's start the webinar. It's 1 minute past. We're going to have a half an hour webinar today, and we're going to end it with 15 minutes Q&A. So for those of you who are interested in asking questions, please stay on. There will be plenty of time for that. And before we just start with the topic of today, some housekeeping rules. There are, as I said, in the bottom right corner, tab which says questions. Please go ahead and ask questions there for our Q&A. There's also one that is called chat. In that one, you can write to, and everyone who's in this webinar will see it. So I know that a lot of you who are listening in are really great at sustainability, equally great as we are. You are colleagues, change makers in the field. So please keep this conversation going. If you want to add something to what we're saying, you can do that in the chat. So see this as a shared space where we make the most value of this half an hour together. My name is Maria Svantemark. I'm CEO and co-founder of SustainLab. And with me, I have my colleague Clara, Clara Edwards, who is Sustainability and Partnership Manager here at SustainLab. So before we begin, just really short about SustainLab. If Clara, you could change the slide. Great, thanks a lot. So SustainLab is a full sustainability solutions provider. We do offer a sustainability data management platform, and in addition to that, also consultancy services that supports you in your sustainability data journey. And also beyond that, we do some consultancy services in-house, and the rest we offer together with our super great partners in various areas. So we had one customer who said it's like getting a new data and sustainability expert on your team when starting working with us, and that's like how we like to view it as well. So if any one of you is interested more in hearing about that, please contact me or Clara afterwards. And the agenda for today then, when we talk about 5 hacks to improve the quality of your sustainability data, we're going to start with why care about data quality now, late August. It is a good point in time. Then we're going to continue with what is good quality data and why does it matter. Then we're going to go into the bulk of this webinar, which is around these 5 hacks to improve data quality. And we're going to end it all with an offer you hopefully can't refuse. So Clara, please start with the first point on the agenda.
Thank you so much for that. And super nice to see so many people joining in today. I don't know if I got kicked out a bit because of my countryside Wi-Fi, but I hope that we are many people from many different places. I'm located in Dalarna at the moment. But why do we care about this topic, and why do we care about this now? And I think this is a really important place to start, because a lot of companies out there are probably sitting in a post-omnibus world and don't really know where to go, and maybe this feels a bit out of context or not making sense. Like, why do we talk about this theme when there's lots of other important questions to be answered? Well, because they are deeply connected and context really matters. So here is ours. Me and several other SustainLab colleagues, and I know probably a lot of you who are listening in, read a lot of CSRD reports the first batch ever to come out this spring. And one thing that I noted quite clearly is this. A lot of the reports had some sort of notice about data quality, wanting to improve data quality, and that this was a challenge that they're still working with. So a big insight is that sustainability reporting isn't just about what you report, it is about how credible that information is. And studies from the spring also showed that about a third of companies out there have reported these challenges with data and data quality for sustainability. And me and Maria were just talking about this, and imagine a CFO saying the same about their financial data. Imagine saying that, oh, well, we don't actually really trust this information. Why would it be okay for the sustainability manager to have that reality? But aside from the obvious trust that you get from having credible data, we also think that this is a cornerstone for any path of direction you choose to go in the end of your sustainability data journey, regardless if you're reporting towards CSRD or VSME or just using it for internal reports. Having high quality data is really a catalyst for everything else. And it's quite clear then that we're all in the same boat. So companies out there are challenged with the same issue, but then what? So what? What do we do with this information? And some of you have been in our webinars before, and then you might recognize this slide and this wheel. This is part of our yearly sustainability management wheel, where we have a few different themes that you can talk about in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, etc., to kind of break up the work and make sense of it all. And now we're in Q3, and we call this doing the work, the doing the work quarter. This is really where you implement initiatives, you follow up on things you've done in the spring, and you really adjust your course. So if you want to stay on a track, what changes do you have to make, what initiatives do you have to start, etc. So this is really where your strategies stop living on a PowerPoint and it starts to live in the real world. And the beauty of this quarter is that it's not really quite yet that you have the reporting deadline breathing down your neck. That's going to wait a little bit, Q4, Q1. Instead, you actually have space in this quarter to implement things, but more than implement, to test things and to adjust. This is really the time to strengthen your systems and strengthen your internal team and prepare early. So use this time well and use it smart. And this is really the baseline for our hacks today, that all of the hacks that we are going to share are things that you could start with in this quarter, and it would make sense for it to be in this quarter. And if it's not super obvious already, we think this is really important, but we also wanted to give you some other arguments about why data quality matters. So from the reports that I showed you a couple of slides ago, the excerpts from CSRD reports where a lot of companies claim to want to improve data quality over time. When I read that, I asked myself the question, how long can you actually claim to improve your data quality without losing that credibility? Can you say that for 1 year, for 2 years, for 3 years? How many years can you say that, oh, we're working on it, we're gonna get better on this? Or if it's okay to say that, what are the things that makes it okay? How can you show that you're actually doing the work over time? So this is really important, that quality that is progressively improving shows your commitment as well as actually improving your work with sustainability. And this really builds over time. Data quality is also really important to account for unknown costs of not knowing. If you don't know about your own reality, what are the risks here? And working with these things really is the way to make sustainability on par with other functions in a company. Something that we know is underway, but in many companies, at least what we can see, not really there yet. Thirdly, of course, data quality is important for making good decisions. Good decisions in a company is based on knowledge. And one of our partners actually said one time, and this really stuck with me, that data-driven sustainability is not something he likes. He likes knowledge-driven sustainability. And they are essentially the same things, but the way you frame it is a bit different. So we really think that having good data quality is the key to having good knowledge and understanding your verksamhet, your company, and in that sense, being able to actually make good decisions. And I know Maria, in her previous role as sustainability manager, has a lot of good examples of this. Bad data quality is also a waste of time. It doesn't give you. I think Kim is actually in this webinar, whom I'm quoting. So I will say hi to Kim. I can see him typing in the chat now. Yeah, so bad quality data is a waste of time, we say. Of course, it's a journey. You gotta start somewhere, but we do think that if the data is something that you don't miss, if you can remove the data set tomorrow and no one would notice, then maybe it's not worth spending time on. And last but not least on why this is important, it's going to be important regardless of your reporting intentions. We know a lot of our customers and a lot of companies that we are talking to right now are a little bit in this borderline of what reporting path are we going to stay on. Either you're moving towards ESRS or CSRD or somewhere voluntary ESRS, or you're looking at BSME, maybe you're not going to do either, do some other framework that's important for you. Irregardless of this, data quality is going to be something that's worthwhile and something worth spending time on. And now I see in the chat here that Kim is actually changing his own quote that is wisdom driven, and I think that's a great addition to this. So lastly from me, before we move into the hack, we just wanted to show an example about what is data quality and how do you ensure it, but like what can it look like? And I think many of you have heard the expression garbage in, garbage out. Same goes here for data, of course. Garbage data equals garbage analysis, not great decisions, not so much wisdom, perhaps. So we have two real examples of how data can look like at different stages of quality, where data reported comes in at different levels. So on the left-hand side, you can see low quality data. It says approximately 500 kilos of waste. There's not really any breakdown of this. We don't really have any documentation. But why is this a problem? Well, you can't really compare it. You can't really use it. It's essentially noise. And it's hard for you to actually do something with this. On the right-hand side, we have some more high-quality waste data. It's the same topic, but here we have some more decimal points. But more importantly, we have a full breakdown about what kind of waste. We can also see what the methods have been used to manage the waste, and we can also see that, okay, we have some documentation here. So this is a possibility for us to actually add some insights to this. You can use it to adapt your strategy. You can make decisions from this. So the difference is not just decimal points. The difference is trust. It's also not leaving us guessing about where and what the data comes from, and also where and what steps to take accordingly. So it's essentially really hard to follow up on the left-hand side. And that was our intro. So now I'm going to leave it to Maria to prepare the hacks.
Yeah, thank you, Clara. So there's 5 hacks as we promised. And this is something you can really take away and use, hopefully directly after this webinar. These hacks are distilled from regulations, standards, and frankly, just a lot of hands-on work of working with data. And a bit of a disclaimer here, we're not going to talk about things like random sampling, data outlier identifications, and other technical aspects, because we wanted to talk about something that would make sense whether you use our system, another software for sustainability data handling, or if you still use this in Excel. So we're more going to talk about the people and process part of it and leave the technical aspects aside here. And conveniently, I wish this was planned, but it was a lucky coincidence. All of these hacks start with P. So you can think of them as your 5 Ps to improve data quality. And they take us all the way from the start of the data collection cycle in the preparations, with hacks throughout to progression, so continuous improvements of your data. Clara, could you please tell us about the first one?
Absolutely. And this is a little bit obvious sounding, perhaps. Of course, you should prepare. But what we really want to highlight is really the depth and thoroughness of this preparation and how getting it right can make all the difference. So our first hack, and this, as many of these comes from our customer success team, is to start every new cycle, every new reporting cycle or data collection cycle with a check-in and mapping against the previous one. Or if this is your first one ever, maybe you haven't done this work before in sustainability, this is a good time to learn from others, for example, other sustainability reports, or ask colleagues that have been working with reporting for a long time, or ask for help from a consultancy or a software, and set a pragmatic bar. So this is really the check-in against what you already know. And in this, you will identify strengths and you will identify weaknesses. And the weaknesses can, for example, be big data gaps. You can find where you have low data quality. And also you can note where you have had a lot of struggle in your data reporters. I know a lot of companies out there use a network of people reporting data into them using software or email, doesn't matter. But a lot of this process is something that we can see is quite complicated for many, and knowledge levels differ. But it's not easy to say that there's one point where all companies or all reported struggles. It really depends on your reality. So note where this is true for you. But on this, we also think it's important that you learn from your successes. What worked well in the previous period? And why did it work well? If you're talking to your data reporters, ask them like, what was easy? What made you think that this was a good way to report data? And replicate those processes. And when you look at this, also consider that ESG data is quite broad and varied in data types. So maybe a process that works really well for you collecting your social data can be replicated for your environmental data collection or vice versa. So try to see this as the process part where you can really learn from that. Document all of this. You're going to think yourself when you are strategic about how you remember it. It's going to be a lot. It's well worth taking time to do that. And also on this Q3 timing that we talked about, this is also the best way to stress test your data. Dry run a specific data collection process. Take one sort of data, for example, waste data, and begin with checking your real data against your desired outcome. Do these processes work? What issues do you have? And dry runs are great at identifying issues, but the point is not to just identify, but also to actually resolve these issues. And this is a great place to really focus on your trends and making your decision making stronger, and just do that over time. So prepare is our first hack.
Mm-hmm. And the second one hack is a hack for those of you who then use this network of data reporters within or outside of your business. And internal planning cannot be overemphasized here. It's easier to spend time planning and prepare to reduce errors rather than to fix them in hindsight. So then build your needs into your process. And that could be things like capture information at the granularity you need for all different needs. If you click to Clara, I think that's where we're at now. Yeah. So for example, if you collect energy data, it is quite common to collect that split to renewable and non-renewable data. If you collect your data like that, come reporting and you realize, hold on a second, I want to report a CSRD demands, which means that I need to split out nuclear energy from which now is hidden in my non-renewable energy. And then you need to start over, go back, ask again, can you please split the non-renewable energy into nuclear and other non-renewable? And that creates a lot of frustration, takes lots of time. So utilizing productivity ensures that you capture all the data you need for all your different needs. Customize templates help data reporters. They usually have loads of other things on their table. So customize the data collection to really fit your need. Don't just go with the template you get from a consultant or straight off some platform. Make sure you make time to customize it, that will save you from sending hundreds of "can you please clarify" emails. And by customizing in a smart way, you can also prevent mystery replies. So for example, if you ask about the consumption of district cooling and someone answers 0, you don't know whether that 0 means we don't use district cooling in this facility, the consumption was 0, or I don't know. But by phasing your questions and starting with, for example, do you use district cooling, yes or no? And you get a yes, you know that a 0 will not mean not used. Then you can secondly ask, did you have any consumption this year? If you get a yes, you know that a 0 cannot mean 0 consumption. A 0 will then mean I don't know. So by phasing and putting this up in a smart way, you can really prevent those mystery replies that actually you have no idea what they mean. And include data quality assessment into your data collection. Understand how much is primary data versus secondary, and if it's secondary data, capturing all of those assumptions, extrapolations, etc. So you know how well can you trust this data when you are to take decisions on it.
And thirdly, our third hack, our third P, is prioritize and really measuring what matters most. When you've done your planning and you have prepared for your data collection, you might feel overwhelmed. You might see that, oh, wow, I have a lot of needs. I have a lot of things that I want to do, a lot of data. CSRD is requiring a lot from you. Maybe you have multiple reporting requirements. You want to, of course, improve data quality in all of these areas, naturally. But it's hard to do everything at once. And we also know that there's some sort of apathy or paralysis that can come when you're overwhelmed. So we wanted to share a little bit of a hack around focus and prioritization. And we know that everything is important in sustainability. We know this because we are sustainability people, and we agree. Everything is important and everything can be argued to be really, really important. So one way to look at this is really to try and outsmart this trap. And one way to do this is asking for help from other teams and utilizing cross-functional collaborations to help you in making these hard cuts. Perhaps you have a colleague that is really fierce in the strategy that can help you really finding what does matter most. And one way to also look at this and to guide that discussion is what questions moves the needle. Ask them. So does this even matter, this data set? If it would disappear tomorrow, as I said before, would it make a difference? If it matters, how does it matter? What's the purpose of this data other than reporting? And then look about the balance between quality and effort. So if you start improving waste data, for example, will that give you a lot of value? Is that really important for your business or for your reporting? And how hard is it to improve your waste data or your energy data? Is it a lot of effort? And then you map these against each other. And we recommend to start where you get the most bang for the buck, where there's low effort by high value, to get those quick wins and see that, oh, wow, the data quality work is actually something we want to prioritize and want to continue with. And then that's your way to really focus and not feel like everything is important all at once, but everything is important bit by bit. And lastly, we want to just really highlight the tools that are designed from this very purpose. Well, one tool, of course, to help you prioritize is your business strategy. I would say that 100% of SustainLab's partners and also SustainLab, we think that sustainability should be part of your business strategy, is something that should be integrated. So use this as a way to work iteratively with your business strategy. And another tool that we think should get some highlight in terms of prioritization is the double materiality analysis. Look back at your DMA. What issues did you find most material? Perhaps those are the ones where your data quality efforts should also be prioritized first. So after you've done your planning, you do your prioritization, so you know where to start if you feel like this is a lot.
And then this, I would say, we asked our customer success colleagues, and I think this was the one hack which they felt really, really warmly about. Do not underestimate the value of well-prepared data reporters. So take the time to really help your colleagues to help you in the best way. And one way of doing this is to pre-brief them. Share examples of what good and bad data looks like for each type of data, because as we said, we want to prioritize and focus what's most important. Then we don't need 100% high quality data for all our data, but in some areas it's super important. In others, good enough is good enough. Help your data reporters to understand this as well. If you can, plan to have them report data when their plate is not full of other things to do. This can sometimes be hard because a lot of things needs to happen there at the beginning of the year. But one way of doing this is to consider to split your data collection into, for example, different phases. So now in October, you could, for example, collect the data from January to September this year, which gives you a way of testing what your data quality and your data processes look like, where they're good and bad. You can iterate once more on them. And then when January, February comes and you need to collect the rest of the data for 2025, you only need to collect data for 3 months, making it a bit easier for your colleagues. Keep a time buffer in between reporting deadline and final submission. Not everyone will report on time. That's just reality. There will be errors in the data. That's just reality. You will need to go back and clarify, even though you did a really good preparation work. So make sure you don't have that stress of not setting time aside for that revision. And then one that I'm personally very fond of asking is, do they really care? Does your data owner really care about what they're doing? Do they understand why they're doing it more than just reporting data? Do they understand the bigger purpose of this data, information, knowledge, and wisdom, to quote Kim? But also, is it part of their job description? If there's just one thing that adds on top of what they're already busy doing, you can be sure that this is going to be point 35 at their to-do list, and it's not going to be prioritized. Does their bonus depend on it? Using incentive systems to really make this part of your business operations is a really effective way of increasing your quality of your data. And then gather thorough feedback. The insights might surprise you. It might not be, they might have plenty of time, but actually it's the wrong person who got the request. Well, you're not going to get qualitative data out of that anyways. So gather feedback from your data reporters as well.
And that was 4 out of 5 hacks. And we're going to end with our final hack, which is progression. And this is really what happens after you've gone through the cycle once, and how you keep getting better. Progression in our world means continuous improvement year over year, report after report. And this journey of maturity, the sustainability reporting, is not just for each company, but for many companies out there. So why we want to emphasize progression is because this is really looping back to what I said in the beginning. How long can you say that you're doing better? How long can you do that? What are the different parts? What are the things that actually give you trust? Well, actually measuring your data quality over time gives you opportunities. It gives you opportunities to not being fluffy or vague and not transparent. So what you can do, and what I know some of our customers do, and what I've seen in some CSRD reports, is that companies report on your data quality progress, percentage of primary versus secondary data, occurrence of errors over time. So instead of making statements such as, we're improving this, we are improving this, and here you can see that improvement. Here you can also really have the possibility to make sure that you document and make processes repeatable. What this also really helps you with is explaining deviations in results, and also explain what is the actual level of uncertainty. So we have actually taken up an example for this that I'm going to let Maria show, really how, for example, data coverage can make a really big difference for your sustainability reporting?
So if we look at this example, we see data reported for 2022, 23, and 24. And at the pink bar, we see the coverage percentage of data. So how much coverage do we have? And then we see that that's 50%. The light green bar shows our reported emissions. So still in 2022, that was 50 ton carbon dioxide equivalents. But actually, since our data coverage is only 50%, our estimated actual emissions could be as high as double that amount. It could actually be 100 tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. And then when we see in 2023, our reported actual emissions goes up from 50 to 58. However, we have increased our data coverage to 80%, which means that our estimated actual emissions have gone down from 100 to 72. And this is a question we sometimes get, because when companies start to use primary data instead of secondary, when we increase the data quality, when we move from spend-based data to activity-based data, those changes can make your actual emissions or water consumption or whatever data you're measuring can make them go up. And then the sustainability manager or the sustainability team get questioned by the leadership team that, you know, we have invested all of this in improving sustainability, and now we see that our emissions increase. What's happening? And that's when it's really important to understand the connection between data quality, data coverage, and then your reported emission versus how much they actually potentially could be if you would have 100% qualitative data everywhere. And just one thing to remember here, this is an iterative work. Your data doesn't need to be perfect from start. Sometimes we get that question, like, our data doesn't look like that, or we know we use a lot of estimations. Everyone does, but make sure you document so you know where you have good versus bad quality and that you improve over time.
So what now? Those were our 5 hacks, and we've shared some of our thoughts on how to work with improving data quality. But what now? I think one great way of starting is that everyone who's out there listening, or perhaps you who are watching this recording after, is asking yourself, which one of these matters most for your organization right now? In what areas do you feel very strong? In what areas do you see gaps in? Perhaps you are really confident in your planning, in your documentation, your cycle, but you started thinking about how to nudge and prepare your data reporters, and maybe that's something you really take with you. So I think that's one thing that we really wanted to pause here and just let you consider. And then also look at what happens if you're not addressing the gaps that you have. What are the risks for your outcome that you are planning for or that you're wishing for? Maybe a report will end up incomplete, maybe it doesn't stand up for assurance, or maybe it doesn't build the trust you wanted. We also had a conversation with a company, or Maria had a conversation with a company this past weeks with someone who realizes that they're not going to get their end goal for the next reporting season, but they know that they need to start now to maybe be there in 2 years. And then the discussion was a little bit about, okay, which part of this is most important to start with to get as far as possible in this short amount of time. So really this prioritization exercise is really valuable, irregardless of your state at the moment. And now I'm going to hand over to Maria for this offer.
Yeah, and I see that me and Clara, as you said, Clara, we are sustainability people as well, so everything is important. We're a bit over time before the Q&A. But really quickly then, one thing we have been working with quite a few of our customers is to improve their data quality and reporting readiness by running a dry run of the reporting process for particular data streams all the way to the source data, hands-on coaching for the team on how they can improve that data during the process. We flag knowledge gaps on the spot, we explain how to fix it, and we create a quick reference guide. And that can be used to refer to continuously improve data quality. And this has been super appreciated with the customers We have done this job, so we said for all new customers signing up before 15th of October, this will be included as a service if you sign up for a new license. I can also just say shortly that this is also a service we do offer without a platform license. So if you're intrigued by this, please reach out to myself or Clara, and we're happy to explain more. So that was that. Even though we're 5 minutes over time for the webinar, meaning that we only have 10 minutes Q&A, I think we will be able to cover quite a few questions. So I see that they're coming in some questions here. I can start with some that came in the chat, actually, from Rebecca. What developments are happening in the system to help us strengthening our data? Good question. So as I said, a bit of a disclaimer. In this webinar, we talk about things that you could use, whether you use a system or not. But we are also updating our roadmap for our product, including more quality controls in the input data. Already by now, there's an easy way to spot outlier and do outlier identification. There are rules for input fields, for example, so you need to input data in a format that's expected and so on. But since this is such a hot topic and so important for everything else you want to do, this is something we have considered now in our updated roadmap. And as Tilda wrote here, we will talk more about it on our customer circles for those of you who are customers to us. We also got a question here in the chat. You mentioned about the quality of the data. How can we be sure that data is reliable? Clara, would you like to take a stab at that question initially?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question, and it is a tricky question because it really depends on what type of data it is, but there are a few things you can do systematically to do this. So one thing is, of course, always applying consistent methods. So making sure that you're collecting the data in the same way, regardless where it comes from, and also keeping track of that, because for some things it's going to be a higher level of uncertainty, but then you at least know that that's where you've used estimations. We think that one way to work with data reliability is, of course, having these standardized templates with clear units, clear definitions. So, I think Maria mentioned a little bit about this with the mystery replies, making sure that the replies that you get in are actually the replies that you're asking for. We can use with some sort of verification, validation, I think, having processes in mind to have multiple people looking at your data. That could be one way to looking at data reliability. And then also dry running it and testing it and see how it moves over time and improves over time. There's lots of different ways. So those are some small steps.
I can also add to that if you collect because one way of knowing that data is reliable is to be able to look back at previous data. That is one way of seeing, like, does this seem plausible or not? If you collect data once yearly, then you have very long cycles before its next data collection phase, which can make that take many years before you know whether data is reliable or not. So one way to also speed up this process is to ensure that you collect data more often. If you collect it quarterly instead, you collect it 4 times per year, you get a better benchmark at a faster pace. So that's one way of doing it. That could also help. And then also ensuring that you have verifications from your data and go as early as possible in the data stream, because then the data isn't processed so much, which makes it easier to know whether it's correct or not. And also then that's the whole thought behind SustainLab. Then you can automate more of this chain, making data more reliable as well. All right, good. Let's take another question that we received here. I think this is a bit adjacent to this question, but we struggle with getting suppliers to provide accurate data. And we're not fully in control here. Any advice? Would you say there's something particular, Clara, when it comes to supplier that we haven't touched?
I think that a lot of the hacks that we have talked to using internally can be applied in your value chain. But perhaps a mention that can be with supplier engagement is really the long game. Supplier engagement is something that you have to work with over time, and perhaps also even more proactively than you do with your internal data owners. So be proactive with choosing suppliers, especially if they are going to be part of your data collection, and you can early share why the data matters and align with them. And also some of our companies or some of our customers have also piloted with a few key suppliers to build examples of how data collection should look like, or what kind of data you want from them. And then you scale it. So I think the keys and hacks are the same for your suppliers, but in a bit of a longer scale, and also perhaps with some even higher clarity and focus on engagement. This is something I very much recognize from meeting companies out there that struggling to get your suppliers engaged. But then also starting in your first circle, and then the first layer of your suppliers, and then moving outwards. But also here then applying the priority hacks, which suppliers are your most important suppliers to get good quality data from.
And also don't look at this as in isolation, that this is something that the sustainability department needs to fix. When it comes to supplier engagement, make sure you have your procurement team on board. You can have demands in your business contracts with your suppliers that they are to supply your data. That is part of making business with you, and that's part of your normal business operations. And then they know that up front. And I think one thing, a movement we start to see in the market now that came with CSRD, and we see now the development with Omnibus, but one thing that is very positive, also if you are on the supplier end, is that over time, the data that is asked for by suppliers will be more alike from customers, meaning it's easier to actually obtain this data, and it's also easier for you if you're a supplier to supply it. So making sure that this is part of your normal business operations and take help from procurement would also be some things you can do to improve your supply chain data, or your value chain data. All right, we have a few minutes left. Here we have a question. We're overwhelmed by the amount of data we could collect. You mentioned double materiality analysis and so on, but how do we decide what to focus on first? More insights. Well, I can, since Clara talked about the double materiality and so on, I can start with some other things top of mind. So mapping your data against two questions, I think, as Clara said, first of all, would someone care if we did not have this data is a great question. Two other questions you could look at your data is does this data affect compliance or decision making, or both? And how much effort does it take to improve? Because that also depends on which data you are to collect, depends on your goals. If your goal is to be compliant with a standard, a regulation, customer demand only, well, then it's very clear that this data is a must-have data. If your ambitions in the company is to use the data to guide decision making, you want to be a front runner in your industry or so on, that will set a different requirement. So look at your ambition. What should we have this data for to be able to prioritize? And then split it into must-have data, nice-to-have data, and low-value data is a way of prioritizing it. And then, as I said, go where you have more bangs for the buck. So start with the easier ones. And it is quite common we had a customer who spent a couple of weeks chasing data, water consumption from their smaller sites because the data was so unreliable there. And when eventually we had that water data, it didn't make so much difference because there were other sites that were, 10 times the size of the smaller ones. And then perhaps, starting with that data was not really a good choice. There could have been other ways to spend that time instead. Good. All right. Last, also on the software, what additional help could your software support with? we touched a bit upon that with Rebecca's question, but one thing is also that's why always we couple sustainability expertise with our platform. These 5 hacks are things that our customer success managers work with already now with our customers, and we share best practices across. So when we see a new way of doing things better, we do it for all our customers. So and in addition to that we can do this customization that we talked about very well, and have set format and drop downs and so on. So making it really, really easy to get data in a good way. So looking at the software as something that keeps you stable over time and have the structure in place, but then also having your CX manager that can help with the people and processes around it. So data quality work really needs to be addressed from different angles to be as good as possible. And with that, that will have to be our last question. We are 1 minute over time. If you want to continue the dialogue with us, feel free to reach out to myself, to Clara, check our website, or connect with us on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for listening in today, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.